responsibility or role of intermediaries to the responsibility of OSHA. Do fundraisers recognize actually the potential risks of using automated systems for fundraising?
Well, yeah, yes and no, because very often many of our civil society organizations are stuck in the grant writing mode. So they're still busy writing grants to a large extent, whereas many of the grant makers have moved out of the continent, some of the continents, like for Asia Pacific, I know, they've moved out. So there is a whole new way of thinking that needs to emerge when one thinks fundraising. One has to move away from that reality that was a reality back then, but now isn't. So the first risk I see with fundraising and fundraisers is unconscious incompetence. They don't know what they don't know. And hence either they're very worried or they're very skeptical or they haven't even tried or they haven't even made an attempt to learn. And I don't mean the fundraiser who's there, in the trenches, but the board members of these civil society organizations who at the end of the day have to make that kind of decisions, or the management team who need to take that kind of decision to say, let's test it out, or let's try something, or let's scale what we have already tested. And hence the first risk is this unconscious incompetence. So if for all those who are attending the RightsCon conference and come to this session, I'm glad that you are highly likely you're not in that phase. Otherwise, chances are you wouldn't come to this session. The second one is, if I may just use the robot, the bot example, the AI example that I gave in the first question, of when you have a portal or a platform where there is a bot kind of nudging. There is so many things that the fundraiser or the IT department of the NGO needs to be at least aware of, because highly likely and most likely it's not being done by the organization. They are subcontracting it to another entity who is the tech company who's doing it. So the questions are, do you understand who owns the source code, for example? Once it has all been written and it's working very well, who owns the source code? Who is reviewing the source code, for example? Do you have fundraising or tech subcommittees with that kind of knowledge? Because highly likely with our kind of salaries, we wouldn't be able to get a top-notch techie to join the organization. Highly likely the big tech companies have already taken him off the university even before he graduated or she graduated. But given that we have that resource dirt, how are we getting subcommittees with that intelligence, the tech intelligence, to help us review some of those things? Change management, that's another risk, right? In terms of being able to change with the times and accept that there are certain methodologies we should test or try or elevate. The data encryption, compliance, all those things that come under the privacy and security area. So Boris talked about some of it. So it is also the risk that the fundraiser need to know what kind of data can he collect or she collect. And then, of course, the whole industry standards and laws, regulations, whether it's crowdfunding, whether it is using AI, whether it is using cryptocurrency, whatever the methodology, the tools of fundraising that one uses. So that's the second thing. When you're thinking of the robotic process automation, you need someone who's advising you. Highly likely it's not on that unless you're a huge INGO. Highly likely you don't have such a person on your staff. You need to have those subcommittees or working groups or advisories to help you with that. And the last one is getting too impressed with the technology and losing the reason for the fundraising. So for me, it's like what happened with the direct mail, what happened with face-to-face fundraising. You get so impressed by the technology and the methodology that you lose sight of the reason for the funds. So that's a big risk, that you get so impressed that you start doing it to raise the money, but then somewhere along the way you've lost, you as the owner of the soul of the society have lost your soul. because it could lead to manipulation, because you could easily use some of the algorithmic ads. So I'll give you one example. We ran a campaign, and anybody who has ever bought a shoe in that particular country, we had kind of crawled and found out who are the people on Facebook who either posted a shoe related information or used a browser to look for shoes. And we ran a campaign for differently abled people, especially those on wheelchairs. And it worked. It worked like it brilliantly, so to say, because there I am buying a $200 shoe, and there is someone on wheelchair saying, help me move. Sure, I will make a donation. That worked. But then the question of where is motivation and where is manipulation? Now that is the question. Now you may say, no, if it raises money for the person on the wheelchair, we'll go for it. Or you may say, well, that is manipulation. Maybe we shouldn't be using those kind of AI generated biases to kind of literally target people who bought a shoe because you're talking of someone with no legs. So yeah, so those are the risks I see fundraisers and their leaders need to think of.
Thank you so much, Usha. And